Honorable Speaker, we think that the feminist movement's main goal is to get equality for both men and women. And we think that the best and most effective way of doing that when it comes to the sexualization of people in the media is to campaign for the increased sexualization of men, so you have equality on both sides. We think that what OP has to do is prove first that sexualization is actually bad, which we don't think it necessarily is, and also prove that they're going to get better policies in their side of the house, which we don't think is possible because we don't think they're ever going to have success with this kind of goal in mind. What we think on our side of the house is that sexualization is actually linked to sexual liberation, and we think that we're getting an increased ability for people to appreciate their own bodies and to recognize that sexualization is a part of human nature that we shouldn't be like shunting to the back burner and ignoring and suppressing in ourselves. So on government, we think that sexualization does not equal objectification, and that you can utilize sex in the media and in advertising separated from just treating women's bodies as objects, which we think is actually decreasing in the media and in advertisement campaigns. We think that the feminist movement mostly is operating in Western countries right now, and that's where they're putting a lot of their focus, and that like when we're talking about sexualization in the media, we're going to be talking mostly about the feminist movement working in Western countries. Okay, so we have two main arguments for you today. One is that equality is the goal of feminism, and you're more likely to get that on our side of the house. And second is that sexualization in the media is actually a positive benefit for society as a whole, and that that's what the feminist movement should be actively pushing for. So why is equality the goal of the feminist movement? And how do we get that better on our side of the house? We think that like feminism is the idea that men and women and all people should be treated equally no matter who they are. We think that like historically women have been significantly oppressed. Their bodies have been used as objects, as like tools for men to have like sexual pleasure, and for men to utilize women as like housewives who raise the children and don't have the authority and the autonomy to do what they want in the world. We think that those problems have largely been solved by the feminist movement so far. We think that like first and second wave feminism have tackled most of those goals in Western countries. What we want now is for the view of women and men in society to be as equals. And we think that one of the places where they're very much not equal in the status quo is in the representation in the media. We think that like they're not going to get any efficacy on their side of the house, because fighting for equality through getting rid of the sexualization of women is just not going to happen. Why is this the case? First, we think that like the main goal of the media is to try to make money and increase first their viewership of TV shows and movies, and second, if you're talking about the media as in terms of advertising, to try to make money. Like the main goal of the media is just to make money through increasing advertising revenue, if you're talking about TV shows, increasing the amount of people who want to pay for movies, and increasing the amount of people who want to buy products that you're trying to sell through sexualization. We think that sex sells, right? Like people are highly attracted to sex. It's like a main drive of human nature to try to reproduce, which is done through sex, obviously, and we think that like it's not going to ever change. We think this isn't something that you can like get through any kind of government policy, because it's not the government's role to interfere in what the media is portraying and the way that they're portraying different types of people. Also, the government would never actually do this, especially with like the tone of government right now, and this is not something that is going to be important to enough people to ever get any kind of efficacy. We think that like, no, I'll take you later. We think that like what's happening right now is that the media is actually diversifying channels, right? Like you don't have one massive media corporation that's disseminating information through like television sets or the radio like you had in the past. Instead, the media is more and more in control of individuals who have different blogs or like Instagram accounts and things like that. So it's even harder to fight against the sexualization of women in the media, because you can't tackle like one individual group and try to get them to change the way they're operating. You can't enact any kind of policy because it's in the control of individuals. Individuals are always going to have an incentive to use sexualization in order to gain attention, because that's a main way that like models are able to gain fame on platforms like Instagram, and we think that like it's not going to be possible for these platforms to outright ban sexualization, because we think sexualization isn't just like portraying nudity or like part of a figure that's related to sex in our common conception of what sex means. It's also like sexual liberation and showing that you can be proud of your body and that it's okay to embrace the way that you experience pleasure and that kind of thing. We think that we think that men are never... Sure.
So if sex sells and sexualization is actually good, why don't we see more sexualization of men in the media today? And why aren't advertising companies targeting that group just as much as women?
Yeah, so I'm going to actually talk about that in my point on why sexualization is good. But we think that a main reason is because the media hasn't been taking advantage of the female market as much as they should be. And we think we're actually seeing an increase of sexualization of men in the media. So an example would be like how in like the 80s and 90s you had shows like Baywatch, which were focused on the sexualization of women in order to attract a male audience. But we think that now you're getting remakes that turn the gender paradigm and instead show the sexualization of men. This is partly due to the increased ability and autonomy of women to make their own money and have their own ability to spend money, and the media is realizing that women actually play a large economic role, and because this is all economically motivated, I forgot to time my speech.
You're at like 20 seconds.
Oh shit. Okay, that's a problem. I should not do that. So why is sexualization good? We think that it's important to have people not have fear of their own bodies, and we think that's something that has been historically a problem in Western societies. We think it's a natural part of human nature, and that men are particularly detached from their bodies. We think the reason that you haven't seen a large amount of sexualization of men in the media is because men have been particularly afraid of their own sexuality, and that it's important for men to like see other types of body types. We think that what you're seeing in the status quo is an increase of a show of sexualization of people across the spectrum of body types, because the media and advertising agencies are recognizing that there's a large market they can take advantage of, and that's something that we want to encourage. We think that like the feminist movement should be focusing on things they can actually accomplish, and that's the best way to gain more legitimacy, and that's good. Okay, I'll stop now.
The honorable speaker with their remarks, and I invite the leader of opposition to come, whatever it's called.
Yeah, so we should definitely focus on that. We're really get to that.
Okay.
And then we'll do so while he's speaking, I'm thinking about ways that we can take note of this. Do you want any of this? Okay. Oh, does Alana want any of this green cookie?
I'm neutral.
What?
I'm on your side too.
Can I bribe the judge with some sugar?
Sure. Thank you so much.
Ooh. Yeah.
It.
The philosophy department had a thesis meeting today, and they like bought us cookies. They took us to Otter Creek Bakery and bought us whatever we wanted. Sorry, I figured I should go now.
It's okay, whatever. Practice round.
I'm so sleep deprived. I'm really bad. Okay.
Honey.
Honorable Speaker, in today's world, we see the increased sexualization of both women and men.
You're here.
This has created increased toxic spaces and increased unhealthy environments for all genders. Side government wants to increase the toxicity and increase the objectification of human beings in the media. We think this is wrong. You get worse outcomes on their side of the house, and this goes against the basic tenets of feminism. Now, what we believe on side opposition is that first of all, the point of the feminist movement, of course, is equality of genders. But how did they get that? Through the creation of healthy environments. That's the most important characterization of the feminist movement, is the creation of healthy environments. Second, the incentives of the media to do this go against whatever model the government side is presented. And third, even if you were to get the equal sexualization of both men and women, you'd actually be having worse outcomes and actually having worse policies on their side of the house. And I'll be going through those main points and then going into direct rebuttal of what the Prime Minister said after that. So first, on why this goes against the basic tenets of the feminist movement. So of course, we agree in the side opposition that the point of the feminist movement is for the equality of genders. But what the side government doesn't tell you is that how you get that. You get that by having healthy environments. We can have discourse about gender, equality, all these sorts of things that the feminist movement wants and perhaps society wants as a whole. But what do you why is it important that we have healthy environments? Because you can, like I just said, why is this more important than the characterization that the government side presents you? Because one, you can't have equality in a vacuum. It has to come from somewhere. There has to be a place where you can get the policies of equality and equal rights for all genders. And two, there has to be a sort of you have to view whoever is opposing your thing as a human being, because otherwise you're not going to be able to treat them as a human and give them basic human rights and not objectify them. This is the most important thing. Which side can create the healthiest environments to actually enact policies and actually make women and men not look at objects, but look at human beings who should not be objectified. Now, moving on to our second point on how the media won't want to increase the sexualization of men. So, the Prime Minister said this already, that the media wants money, sex sells, fighting it goes against what the media wants. Sure, the media wants to pay, but wants to get as many to pay for their products, in advertising, or wants to get more viewers. Now, in my POI, I asked, why isn't there increased sexualization of men as well? Well, that's because sexualization of men doesn't sell. The sexualization of women co-occurs with high beauty standards and the standards of what women should be. The characterization as being sexual liberation or whatever is faulty, because you can see it in the media today. In advertisements, you see the perfect woman with huge breasts, perfect skin, nice hair. You see this, and that's what sells, because women want to be like that woman because of beauty standards. And second, you get men who are saying I want my girlfriend or wife or friend to look like this beautiful woman. And that's what sells. The sexualization of men and hypermasculinity necessarily doesn't, and that's why you don't see it today. What the government side wants to push is the increased sexualization, but that's not going to happen because, one, the sexualization of men doesn't sell today, so why would they want to increase it even if there was a push by the feminist movement? Second, they totally forget about who controls media, who controls TV, who controls music videos, and who controls movies and TV. These are executive producers and directors, and for the most part, they are male. Men don't want to objectify themselves. That goes against whatever. If it doesn't sell and it goes against who they are, why would they want to do it at all? The incentive structure there is faulty. This incentive structure is true. So there. So you won't necessarily get the access to the impacts that they might necessarily believe. But even if you could, leading to my third point, even if you could happen to get equal sexualization of men and women, you actually get worse outcomes. But before I get to that, I'll take a POI by the Prime Minister.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you see right now an increase in campaigns like Dove's Real Beauty campaign and Aries' campaign where they no longer Photoshop images. They're targeting men, and they're targeting trans bodies, disabled bodies, fat bodies, to try to increase their audience. They're getting massive support. Isn't that a good thing?
Okay, so that I'm going to touch on that in my third point, because if you have sexualization of anyone, you necessarily objectify them. Now, yeah, and why is this the case? Because when you in the primal mind of a human being, if you want sex, you treat the other person as an object to achieve your sexual desire. And if you sexualize people regardless of their gender, you're in fact objectifying them, because you're making them look as an object to desire and to try to have sex with, instead of an actual human being who is has their own wants and desires and is and has a diverse range of thoughts and isn't just an object of your sexual desire. Regardless of who it is in the world, like if you like sexualize someone, you're in fact objectifying them, and that's bad because then you get the creation of toxic spaces where like men view women as sexualized objects and women view men as sexualized objects. Where do you get positive discourse? Where do you get healthy environments? How can you enact policy if both sides want to fuck each other? That's wrong. Like an eye for an eye, like will make the whole world blind to the positives of equality. Like honestly, like yeah. So there. Now moving on to the Prime Minister's speech very quickly. Like in terms of what they said about equality, I already refuted that because with like in order to access equality, you have to have like a basic understanding of respectfulness. Moreover, they say like they also brought up this weird notion of like independent like producers like producing themselves and like they want like market their sexualization. Like what incentive do these like people on Instagram or whatever have to like sexualize men if what sells is actually the sexualization of women? I already went over this. Second, and also another example of Baywatch, like they already had sexualization of men and women in the 70s. Like David Hasselhoff was a thing. Okay, so what you get on our side of the house is a positive environment to actually get equality, and you reduce toxicity on both sides. What you get on this side of the house is a toxic environment where you cannot actually access the goods of life. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking we take a little second.
Should I stop it or?
No, it's fine.
Okay, Lex can listen.
To just talk about like how to make a member speech, or I guess we're doing BP, so like a W speech. It doesn't really matter.
Top half of the BP.
Yeah,
it's slightly different.
And construct.
Yeah. So what you want to do is take down as many of his arguments as you can, but you don't want to focus too much on like doing line by line rebuttal. Like you don't need to take down everything he said. You can also do things like reframe the debate or be really comparative and say that what we need to prioritize is something that we're winning on, not something that he's winning on. So
and also it's helpful to just remember like your job as the deputy prime minister is to like defend and extend the government case or the prime minister's like Charlotte's points, and then present like new reasons by extending, and then also like have some rebuttal to Garrett's big ideas.
So it'll be pretty easy to extend because I missed stuff. So this is what I thought for rebuttals. I thought these were his like biggest arguments, and like this is how I would respond to them.
Oh, also there's another rule.
So I think like a lot of these you can talk about when you're making our arguments. Like just like our characterization of what sexualization looks like. And then I also think that this could be really important to bring up. Like why, so we claim that like it's going to be easier to have success with this than it will be to have success with getting rid of sexualization of women. And if we can prove that we get success right now, that could be really important for the feminist movement in the long run. And then just try to be like,
let's try to see what I can do.
Yeah,
I
no
mean,
pressure.
Yeah, like this is your first BP speech ever. So no pressure if you can't do an awesome job. But also I have full faith in you because you're awesome. So
Do you have Android?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'll show you an app that's really useful after this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Speaker. First, the first speaker of side opposition came here and then debate why it is unhealthy. Why is it unhealthy? Why sexualization is actually unhealthy? While we're trying to prove that actually sexualization is healthy and it does not equate objectifying, as my first speaker of side proposition actually said earlier in her speech. First, why sexualization is not actually unhealthy. First, we have the human nature and the freedom to choose. For example, for example, we have for example, if we try to eradicate sexualization from the media and from the platform, it wouldn't give the space for some women or some people in general to show their body or to feel confident about their body, what they're actually here to do. They don't give them the choice to choose what's actually good for them and what's actually better for them, to show their body or not. While in our on our side of the house, we propose that to equate sexualization in the media. Therefore, every individual has actually the choice to choose either to show their body on the beaches, on Instagram, on Facebook, or not to show. No, we're not trying to force anyone to show their body on our side of the house, and neither are we trying to force anyone to not show their body, as we believe in the principle of human right and the freedom to choose what we want. And we also want to point out that how in the media, first speaker of side opposition showed that in the media only perfect bodies are being shown, and maybe it has been the case in the past, but it's actually not the case right now. We can see many plus size models: Ashley Graham, fat women, black women from every type of colors, women from every weight, height, to being shown in the media and being shown as we are your own kind of beautiful. Many Dove campaigns and many corporations are actually trying to diversify their target, because they are actually seeing that one type of beauty does not sell anymore. And as we already said, the main point of the media is to make money and to sell. Therefore, they have to, if diversity sells, they will be diversified in their campaign. Yeah.
Okay, so in the Dove ad that your whole point of sexual liberation hinges on, how is that actually the sexualization of women's bodies, and how is that not actually like the characterization of women as people?
It is the sexualization of human body, but because we can see actually naked women, and we see the sexualization of women body not only a part of the woman body, but the woman as a whole, and a woman and a person as a human being as a whole. Sex is part of our human nature in general. We are born to procreate, and that's done by sex. Sometimes we just want to feel naked in our own room, and that's completely fine. Therefore, we need to have the tools and the opportunity to feel confident and to feel in peace with our own self, either naked or fully covered. And okay, side opposition also came today and then showed that people and people behind the media, or executive producers and all go on, are actually men, and therefore they don't want to sexualize themselves. Maybe this is true. They are actually all men. They don't want to sexualize themselves, but their first and main goal is to make profit, and therefore if they need to sexualize themselves in order to make profit, these men would actually sexualize themselves in order to make profit. Therefore, sexualization for them is a second matter, and not for a first hand. And not for the first time. Now I'm going to move and trying to rebuild our case, which is why sexualization is actually good. First of all, as I said before, and as the first speaker also said before, sexualization is good because it gives the freedom for people to choose what they want to be, how they want to be, what they want to wear, how they want to wear it, and where they want to wear it. Therefore, sexualization gives us the freedom in a healthy environment, and we are trying to provide to give the path for everybody to choose how and what's the effective way to be better with themselves. Another point is that because sexualization is actually being sold in the media and is actually a huge market, we don't believe that actually cutting and eradicating sexualization would be good for the whole economy in general. Therefore, more women being sexualized and people buying more goods from the sexualization of men, and also the sexualization of men, not only provides the equality that the feminist movement actually wants, but also it can provide actually a better economy for them. for the whole Western countries in general. Why? Because many Instagram model men can actually have their own platform and have money and contracts from the sexualization of men. What's really not actually happening right now, and we can also and also the huge marketing. The huge media market is actually going to sell more things, because if some men see themselves and they can see themselves from another perspective of an Instagram man, either disabled, fat, trans, or any other type of body. These type of people that we actually forget that are part of the society are going to actually enter the market and actually going to buy more goods from those people where they are actually signed. Because now what we are actually seeing is many people that we actually are omitting from that market, not seeing themselves, therefore not feeling and not thinking that they also can buy this product, they also can be part of this movement. And therefore we believe that sexualization is actually good. It's going to do more good than actually not having sexualization at all. And even if sexualization is not even if sexualization is not good, we still stand on the ground that we better give people the choice to choose what they want instead of blocking them and stopping them to do whatever they want in our society. Thank you.
Wait, what time are you at?
7.
Okay, cool. Yay! Why are you rubbing that?
Is it not open if you rub it? Oh, it's locked. Oh.
Wait, is it actually turning?
Huh?